Before you listen to this BBC podcast, I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Stevie Middleton and I'm a BBC Commissioner for a load of sport podcasts. I'm lucky to do that at the BBC because I get to work with leading journalists, experienced pundits and the biggest sports stars. Together, we bring you untold stories and fascinating insights straight from the players' mouths. But the best thing about doing this at the BBC is our unique access to the sporting world. What that means is that we can bring you podcasts that create a real connection to dedicated sports fans across the UK. So if you like this podcast, head over to BBC Sounds where you'll find plenty more.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast. I'm Liam McLeod, and in this special episode we'll preview the fourth Old Firm derby of the season, the last one in the league, and the most crucial so far.
Huge game. It's going to be absolutely on fire here next weekend.
Kyogo up against Goldson, and he gets a shot away, and that is wonderful from Kyogo. How much does he love a goal against Rangers? And it's Tavernier to go for goal, and he finds it. 2 minutes left of the 90, and Tavernier steps up to play a captain's part.
I stepped in the building 6 months ago when we were 7 points behind. It's now 3, and with a victory there, it can be 0.
Right, thanks for listening, for downloading, streaming, and hopefully subscribing as well. I am joined today by two veterans of the Celtic Rangers fixture in the shape of Aiden McGeady and Stuart McCall, who have won 9 Scottish top-flight titles between them at Celtic and Rangers respectively, and sports editor at The Scotsman, Mark Atkinson. I think between myself and Mark, we have won 0 Scottish top-flight titles between us. But Mark, them's the breaks.
Indeed.
Never mind, we move on and we'll talk to guys who've actually got the winners' medals tucked away. And it's great to have you both with us, Aidan and Stuart. Celtic are the home team for this one, so I'll start with you, Aidan. What's your favourite memory of this fixture when you look back at all those games you played against Rangers? Which one is it that stands out?
Personal memory would probably be the League Cup final 2009.
McGeady's got the pace. Aiden McGeady to win it for Celtic. That's a penalty, and Kirk Broadfoot could well be off. Celtic have the penalty, won by Aiden McGeady. And Kirk Broadfoot stands up, and Kirk Broadfoot is gone.
You always want to do it in a cup final for anybody, but to do it for your boyhood club against your biggest rivals on probably the biggest stage is one that sticks with me quite vividly.
Aiden McGeady. He's now got the chance to make every Celtic fan roar. Celtic will win the Cooperative Insurance Cup for 2009. Signed, sealed and delivered by Aiden McGeady.
Aiden talks about a decade where, it was a great rivalry then. Martin O'Neill, Alec McLeish, Gordon Strachan taking over at Celtic as well. Stuart, your era was obviously special, in particular for Rangers. There must be plenty of games against Celtic in there that you enjoyed taking part in.
Yeah, I think probably the most important one with Liam was the Scottish Cup semi-final in my first season, 91-92. And the gaffer was coming under a bit of stick. We'd got beaten in the League Cup by Hibs. We got knocked out of Europe in Sparta Prague. And there was a lot of questions being asked. Obviously, it was the gaffer's first full season. And I remember going to Hampden. It was an absolute, if you ask anybody, any punt of Rangers or Celtic, all the memory of the game is absolutely got soaked wet through. It was bounced it down all through the game. And Archie Knox just says before the game to David Robertson, who was up against Joe Miller, obviously played together at Aberdeen. And he says, sort him out early on. But unfortunately, Robbo took it literally, and he took wee Joe out by his studs on his throat, I think, and got an obvious red card. And then we managed to play on. I remember slipping Coist in for the goal just right on half time, 45 minutes.
The breaks from McCall. He has McCoist inside. That's for Ali McCoist. And Rangers are ahead. It's a magnificent goal from McCoist. And the Rangers fans go wild. It was a great pass from McCall.
Coist always, did what he normally did, hit your target and scored against Celtic. And then we rode his luck. I remember Paul McStay hitting a bar, the goalie pulling off some great saves, and we managed to win it 1-0. And I think we came in at the end of that and we says, this can be the start of things. And it could have gone so differently. I think if we'd have lost that night, Who'd have known if the gaffer had stayed? There was a lot of pressure on him at that time. So that was a key game. And it won that led us to get on to win the Scottish Cup for the first time in 11 years against Airdrie. So that was probably the key Old Firm game I played in.
Mark, the neutral certainly will be hoping for something akin to what we got last month, I would have thought.
Exactly, Liam. I was wondering if you'd asked me what my best memory was, and I was going to actually come out and say that the most recent game really stands out. It was a classic, had pretty much everything, some good things, some bad things as well. And if we get the same level of entertainment, I don't think there'll be any complaints. I feel this game has more on it than the last one. It always feels that way with Old Firm games. The next one is the biggest one. And that might play into the entertainment value a little bit. We might have a slightly more muted match. But yeah, huge excitement around this. We're in the midst of a sort of trilogy of Old Firm matches. This is the second one. And potentially league defining.
Well, let's remind ourselves, shall we, of that game. 3-3 draw just over a month back.
To come here, to play with no supporters, and to play with that courage that we did. The first half we were excellent. We could have had the game out of sight.
Oh, it's an astounding start for Celtic as Dyson Maida, within seconds, has directed the ball past Jack Butland. That is one of the most incredible starts to an Old Firm game I have ever seen. Butland just behind his line as O'Reilly dinks it, and Celtic have a second goal.
In the second half, we showed our real quality, our real personality also.
Up steps Tavernier and scores, and Rangers are back in it. We'll come back for Siva. It's in, and Rangers are level now. And Abdallah Siva is the man who has dragged them off the canvas. Bernardo into the feet of Ida. Can he get a goal? Surely opportunity. Yes, he can. And Amida once again silences Ibrox. Wow, now Matondo can find the angle for a shot. Oh, that's stunning from Matondo. He's done it again. He has picked out an absolute peach of a finish.
I think my boys did something special today.
Overall, I think they so pleasing for the team and the mentality that we showed. We're disappointed not to win, but to leave here today with it all in our hands is what we wanted, and for that I'm really proud.
We have a tough opponent and it's going to be really interesting, and I think everybody who watched this game enjoyed it also a lot, and it's good for Scottish football. You have two teams with a level as this competing like this.
Yep, it was quite the match at Ibrox back at the beginning of April. I was sitting beside Stuart doing that game actually for Sports Sound. Are you expecting similar fireworks this time around at Celtic Park?
Probably not. It was, I think Mark's right. It had everything. I think it wasn't, it wasn't filled with loads of quality, but it certainly with drama and entertainment and excitement and everything you could ask for of an Old Firm game. No, listen, if there were 6 goals in it, I'd be very surprised. But no, it's one. Rangers will be looking to do what Celtic did, what start Celtic got, and went on and controlled the whole first half and went in deservedly 2-0 victors. And I think the crowd played as big a part as anything. I think obviously Rangers had the advantage of having a full stadium behind them, which Celtic will have coming Saturday. So I think it'll be important for Rangers to sort of calm it down. And, I think Brendan Rodgers' message to Celtic on the last Old Firm game was to go and see if he can get an early goal and kill the crowd, and they certainly did that. But it's going to be a big ask for Rangers. Obviously Celtic are flying high at the minute, home game, 3 points ahead, so they're no doubt the favourites going into it.
The one thing I would say, Aidan, about Celtic's season, and it perhaps hasn't been a vintage season, they could still end up with a terrific points tally come the end of it. I think if they win the rest of their matches, they'll only have beaten that points tally over the last kind of 12, 13 years of dominance 3 times. So points-wise, it would be absolutely fine. But when it comes to the Rangers games, they've turned it on, haven't they? The frustration that they didn't win the last one, given they were 2-0 and 3-2 up, but this has been where they've peaked this season, these games against Rangers, isn't it?
Yeah, ultimately, I think the last game was, that Stuart touched on there, I don't think it was filled with loads of quality, but there was a lot of mistakes, and for entertainment value for a neutral, it was a fantastic game of football to watch. Celtic, I think this season it's been a bit of a roller coaster of a season, but I think recently, just probably since probably maybe Kilmarnock, I think Celtic have turned their form round. A lot of questions were probably being asked of the style of play, the kind of manager, the formation, But I think you really seen in that last Rangers game, I think the momentum kind of shifting towards Celtic in this title race. I think that come the game on Saturday, I think it's for Celtic, it's a must not lose game, but for Rangers it's a must win. I think because if Celtic win, I think it's even with it's a massive uphill task. You're talking 2 games left with 6 points in it with a goal difference as well. You're effectively talking 7 points. It's a massive occasion, I think, for the whole of Scottish football. I think Celtic have been in this situation before, a number of occasions. This squad in particular, the manager has. Rangers, I think it's new to a lot of players. So the onus is obviously on Rangers to go down and try and get a win. I think Celtic will be calm and collected about it. They've been, like I said, in this situation many times before over the years. So I think it's got all the makings of a fantastic game.
Yeah, I mean, Celtic hold the aces going into this one, Mark, and the reality is because of those recent games in Dingwall and Dundee, even if Rangers win this game, it might not be enough because of the goal difference.
Yeah, it's a tough order for Rangers now. The only thing that I think they can hopefully try and do is make Celtic Park an anxious place in the opening stages of the match. We saw that at Ibrox last time when Celtic went into their lead. The Rangers fans, they were beside themselves. The anxiety was through the roof. And Celtic Park has not been without its anxious moments this season. Think back to the game against Hearts when there were protests against the board. There will be nerves there. And I think when we talk about a crowd that's for one team only, yes, it can be really important in terms of being in your favour. But if Rangers can get an early goal, then there will be a little bit of panic in the stands. But you look at the teams now, and Aiden's spot on with how Celtic have sort of steadied the ship and got all their key players back now. The spine of the team is there. The spine of the successful team, from Joe Hart right the way up to Kyogo and the midfield and defence, it's there now. They seem in a better place than Rangers. There's a confidence about how Celtic are playing, while Rangers have stumbled through the last couple of games, even in victory against St Mirren and Kilmarnock. They've not been at their best. I just think Celtic, especially that performance at the weekend against Hearts, they've found their stride again. There will be quiet confidence within those Celtic players right now.
And you'll find out, Stuart, on Saturday whether these Rangers players are able to wear the weight of the Rangers shirt, because they're going into this one with a heck of a lot of pressure on their shoulders. This is it, isn't it? I mean, this is their last shot.
Yeah, of course it is. And nobody probably outside the dressing room, including maybe, lots of Rangers supporters, will expect them to go and get anything because of the current form. But I think, there's no doubt. I watched the highlights and I spoke to a couple of people at the Celtic game, and, they were back to, playing the top level stuff. McGregor was running the show with O'Reilly and that. But I think even prior to there, though, I think, they've been stumbling a lot. Of Rangers have through games. I don't think they were brilliant up at Dundee when they managed to nick a 2-1 the same day that Celtic Rangers nicked a 2-1 at St Mirren. I don't think they were brilliant against Aberdeen in the Cup at 3-3. It was a tight game. So, but no doubt, as Mark mentioned, they've got the key players back and they've got some game time under the belts. I think for Rangers to still be in the hunt with an outside chance, I look at the forward options that Philippe Clements had since he's been in. And, Danilo now out, Roof out. You look at the 2 last goal scorers, Matondo and Seema, probably looking to be out. They've had really no great options in the forward line. And for them to still be in with a chance of, nicking it, although not a great chance, but they've still got a chance. And while that chance is there, as you said, the Rangers players have got to go out. I think it's going to be difficult for the manager to pick a team, because you've got to pick a team on obviously ability, current form. There's not many playing really well, but mainly mentality. Who can go there in front of 60,000 fans, should I say, take the ball, put tackles in, and do everything that's required to overcome a Celtic side that seemed to be full of confidence after the 3-0 thumping of Hearts.
Yeah, Aiden and Stuart have played in these games multiple times. I just wonder, Aiden, what the build-up was like. Was it different in your head, your preparation, how you approached the match? How will the players be feeling going into it?
I think you'd like to lie and say no, it wasn't different, but I think everybody knows it is different. There's the outside noise which always comes with a Celtic Rangers game. As you're building up to it, it's not spoken about, but you can just feel that the tension starting to rise. It's a different atmosphere, it's a different game. it's a different occasion for everybody. But you just like to try and play your own game and just try and not let the occasion affect you. And more often than not, that's what the Celtic teams that I was involved in did. But you never know, like Stuart talks about current form there, about Rangers stumbling kind of the last few games. The strange thing about Celtic Rangers games is I don't think current form really goes into it. Anybody on the day can win and silence the crowd, change the atmosphere, change the environment. Now, if you look at what could happen if Rangers win, it's all changing, and there's a cup final as well in a month's time, and it could put a completely different slant on the season the Rangers have had up until now, and the exact same with Celtic. But in terms of like the mentality, I think Stuart's right. It's about the players that can handle the occasion, and I don't think it comes much bigger than three games left, and you're playing against Celtic away from home to try and salvage what was probably a tight winning season 7-8 games ago for Rangers.
Yeah, Stuart, I mean, from a Rangers point of view, their ideal outcome obviously is to win this game. They've then got Dundee at home to put pressure on Celtic, who then go to Rugby Park, where they've lost twice this season. So again, this just amplifies how important it is for them to go to Celtic Park and get the win, because anything less than that, it's probably done.
Yeah, I think realistically so. I think if Celtic it wins, it's done completely. There's no doubt about that. A draw gives Rangers a slight chance, but I think in the main they've got to go look to win. And that doesn't mean to say go out and win, in the first minute. I mean, I go back to a long time ago when I was managing at Motherwell, and we went up to Aberdeen the last game of the season, and we needed to win up there. And we scored in the 92nd minute. We defended for a lot of the time. And as you know, Liam, we sneaked a winner in the 92nd minute. And there might have been a foul in there as well. So,
there might have been. There might have been. Is that right?
It was a get back for the Boxing Day when Stephen didn't give one against Aberdeen for us. So it balanced it up. But no, that's what it can be. And I think Rangers, listen, they've got to stay in the game as long as they can. Get a little bit of confidence out of it. As longer the game goes, if it is drawing, if it's a tie at the time, then I think the crowd will get edgy. It's only natural. But it's picking who's going to be available? Obviously, Goldson's out. Balogun looks as though he could be out. So you bring in Davison, who's not had a lot of game time. But for me, it's about characters. And as always, Aiden will tell you it's about wingers and forwards winning your games. Goalkeepers will tell you about them. And I'll say it's about winning in the middle of the park. And I think the first game at Ibrox this season, when Callum McGregor just was allowed to just stroll through the game and pick passes and dominate the game, really. You notice when he came on in the 3-3 game, Rangers slightly changed at half-time, and they had to be a bit bolder and stepping onto people. And uncharacteristically, Callum gave the ball away square. Rangers won it and ended up scoring from that. So I think the middle of the park for me is always a key area. And I think in Dumande, Lundstrom and whoever else is going to play in there, Lawrence was good at the weekend, but he hadn't been great against Celtic up to now. Against three Celtic players, who's in good form? Celtic have got a good strong midfield as well. So for me, whoever can win that battle got a chance of winning it. But I think Rangers need to win it here.
See, the best performances I think Celtic put in under Postecoglou were arguably 2 home games against Rangers. They were just at it. The intensity was right up there, and they blew Rangers away. And I think the Celtic fans, 60,000 of them, making their way to Celtic Park on Saturday, will be expecting that, particularly when you consider that Brendan Rodgers has been hoping and trying to get that level of intensity into the players since he got back to the club. It's only now we're really beginning to see it.
Yeah, for Celtic, in a way, it's not a free hit, this game, far from it, but you can go out into that match and go, right, we can put an end to this title race, essentially. It's in our hands here, and we can play at a pace and intensity with the power of the crowd behind us. We can get control of the ball early with the midfield trio of McGregor, Hatate and O'Reilly, and they've got the threats in the final third to cause Rangers a lot of problems. The Rangers defence looks weak, given the players that are missing in terms of match fitness, in terms of experience of the old firm, and also in terms of how they've been dealing with attacking threats from other teams of late. So Celtic fans will be going there hoping, right, go and take the game to Rangers, because we have the firepower to get an early goal, put even more pressure on Rangers and turn the screw. I do believe it's in their hands here. They have the full strength squad, they have the momentum, and they have the better league position. And it's about, I suppose, playing a little bit without fear and going, right, we can take this game to them and end it on our terms.
Kyogo's been a big problem, Aiden, for Rangers. He scored 7 times against them in 12 derbies. He got 2 against Hearts. He scored actually more against than anyone else at the weekend. First time he scored 2 in a game for a year. But we've seen him cause the Rangers defence problems. We've seen the Rangers defence have problems this season dealing with balls that have caught them out and players playing just on the borderline there, as we know Kyogo loves to do. How important a role will he have to play?
Kyogo's going to have a massive role to play in the game. I think we'd be very surprised if we come full time on Saturday and we've not mentioned Kyogo, or Kyogo's not been involved or scored or had chances. But I think that goes for every attacking player involved in both teams. You could probably say defence as well. I think there's going to be someone who's going to be the talking point, whether that be a positive or a negative. Kyogo's been a massive thorn in the Rangers side for the last few years since he signed, and he's one of those players that sometimes you just don't appreciate how good he is when he's not getting involved massively in the build-up of the play, but he can just do something out of nothing. That's what the best strikers do. I think earlier on in the season there was a lot of talk about, does he fit into the way, the kind of new style of play as opposed to Postecoglou's sides played, but he's still one of those players you could never take out the team just for what he does on a week-to-week basis. There's a reason why the strikers and the match winners are paid the most money and they're the most sought-after players, and I think like I said, we'd be very surprised if we're not discussing the impact that probably Kyogo's had in the game, and probably O'Reilly, I would say, from a Celtic's point of view. I think this season has been fantastic. I was very surprised that he didn't actually win Player of the Year from these fellow professionals, but I think the attacking players and attacking threat the Celtic have, they're going to have a massive impact in the game.
Do you think James Forrest starts this one, Aidan? Has he done enough in recent weeks to earn his start? He of course knows this fixture so well.
I think he has. It's funny how when you're not playing you can become a better player. It's funny how football works sometimes, but since he kind of got back in the team, it was kind of almost forgotten about a little bit, even though how much he's done to the club. But when he got back in the team, and his form in recent weeks has been outstanding. It's funny when you probably look at the attacking threats that Celtic have in the wings. He's been there a long time, and probably if not one of the best that they've still got, and that probably goes down to, you look at the recruitment as well. When Celtic have spent quite a bit of money and they've tried to reinforce their attacking threats on the wing, and James Forrest 5 weeks ago wasn't in the team, and now you're saying he's probably a shoe in to start.
He's looking to go or stand above your manager at Ayr United, Scott Brown, in the Trophy Hall. He's targeting Bobby Lennox. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that James Forrest, by the end of his Celtic career, is the most decorated Celtic player of all time. We shall wait and see. He'll need to win the 2 this season, perhaps, to stand a chance of that. Just before we look at the managers, and I'll get a couple of predictions off you before we wrap up for this edition of the podcast, I'm going to go through the 3 of you here and just ask where you think the game will be won and lost. Stuart, firstly.
Yeah, listen, I think you can target everything. I think Celtic's front 3 have carried more of a threat than Rangers' front 3. I think the middle of the park, I agree totally with Aidan. I think O'Reilly's been excellent. He had a slight little dip, and it might have been sometimes when you have a dip at the wrong time, when people are voting for people, you know, the month that you're actually voting for people, and he had a slight dip then. I don't know if that went against him, but I think he's a top player. Obviously, McGregor's come back to a little bit of form, and the defence, we can't, Vickers back in there, looks a little bit stronger. So I think all round they're probably stronger, but it's, for me, it's Rangers players turning up. It's Lundstram showing what a player he can be, because over the past times at Rangers, he's been up and down. But when he plays well, he can have an influence on the game. Diamandi's been better, but they're going to have to defend really well. Tavernier's going to have to step up to the plate. But I did say, I think middle of the park, if they can stop McGregor playing and get high up on him, I mean, Rangers can't afford to come too high up the park with the pace Celtic carry, so they'll have to sit a little bit deeper. They had to come higher up at Ibrox, but obviously because Celtic got such an early goal, I think they'll sit in a little bit more, but they don't seem to have the pace in the attack that they had if the Seamer had been playing, Matondo had been playing, Cortez had been playing, you know, so it's going to be a difficult one. But middle of the park for me. If you can win that area, it'll give you an opportunity.
Aidan?
I'd reiterate the exact same comments that Stuart's made there. I think if Rangers allow Callum McGregor to dictate the tempo of the game the way he has done in previous fixtures, I think it'll be a very, very tough game for them. Middle of the park, and I think Tavernier's got such an attacking threat going forward, but I always find that Maeda always seems to cause him problems when he's playing against him, shown in the last Celtic Rangers game. But I do think the middle of the park, and I think that's the key area. Callum McGregor coming back, Hatate in there, O'Reilly, that's your 3 probably biggest players in your squad. And I think Celtic massively, you notice a massive difference in the way Celtic played, I think, especially with Hatate and McGregor out, and coincides with the kind of return to top form, I think, for the team in recent weeks since they've come back. So I would just echo the same comments that Stuart made about the middle of the park. It'll be a much harder game for Rangers if McGregor's allowed to do that.
Mark, you've already mentioned the Rangers' defence. Is that where you fear for them?
I do fear for the Rangers' defence, but I also fear for them at the other end of the pitch as well. Because I think composure comes down to this match as well. Keeping your cool, making the right decisions and taking your chances in a big game like this. And I look at the Celtic forward line and I have more confidence in someone like Kyogo or James Forrest or even one of the midfielders taking their chance as opposed to Rangers. Well, I think Dessers does a decent job leading the line. His composure is something that lets him down in the final third when chances come his way. I think both teams will get chances because there are holes in both defensive outlooks of the teams. But ultimately, I think Celtic have got that killer instinct and that lucidity in front of goal, which could make all the difference. It's whoever shows that when the chances come along, you'll have the best chance of winning for sure.
Right then, let's have a little look at the two men in the dugouts. What have you made of the little spat, if you like, between them? We're talking about having lots of fun, I think, on Saturday, Stuart. Brendan Rodgers started that on Saturday after they beat Hearts. Philippe Clement reacted on Sunday. A little sideshow.
Yeah, listen, I think somebody will have fed Mr. Clement that. Listen, for me, it's not a big deal.
Mark's smiling. We love this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
there should be more of it. Trash talk. It's brilliant.
I can imagine you do. Listen, don't get me wrong. If I'm being Rangers manager and the opposition, I'd probably think, well, we'll see. I won't probably retort with, we'll have fun as well, because you know what sort of game it could be. But you got to make sure you try to do is stop them having fun. So, yeah, it was something nothing for me. I won't get too wound up about it if I'm honest.
Stop playing it down, Aiden. Come on, what do you think?
No, I think it's brilliant. First sign of kind of mind games from Brendan Rodgers, I think, towards Clement. It's funny because I know he's obviously an experienced manager, an experienced player, but just see a little bit of a chink in the armour, I think, when Clement seems to react to that. Previously, earlier on this season, you've seen Brendan Rodgers react to criticism similarly, but coming into such a big game, I think all the top managers always just have that something that they can upset the opposition or annoy the opposition a little bit and can almost get them to kind of lose face a little bit. And I think that with Clement reacting that way at the weekend, I don't think it's the best way to handle the situation, because these comments can always come back to bite you. But just interesting from Brendan Rodgers, because he doesn't normally do that, but I think it probably shows an air of confidence about the Celtic squad just now and the Celtic manager at the minute.
What did you make of the Scottish football writers snubbing Brendan Rodgers but popping Philippe Clement onto the list for Manager of the Year?
Yeah, strange decision, if I'm being honest. I've always found the Scottish football writers awards a little bit funny. Like, it doesn't totally reflect the way that the players see the season or that the fans see the season going out. I do think it was strange though when you've got the other managers who were on there who've done fantastic jobs, but to snub a potential title winning season, a Scottish Cup winning season, as if it's just that's a done thing that Celtic and Rangers just automatically do. You just win things and it doesn't really matter how you do, you still have to do that. So I do think it was a bit of a strange decision. But listen, everybody's got their own opinions, don't they? That's what makes football.
Yeah, I don't write for any of the newspapers, but for me, Derek McInnes, I think, is the one who stands out, given the improvement in Kilmarnock, given he's taking them into Europe. But for you, Mark, I mean, this is just a situation where the nominees, the dinners, they all come, a lot of them come before the end of the season. Certainly the writers' dinner comes before the Scottish Cup final, for example, and that could have a huge sway in people's decision making had these decisions been made after that.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised to see Rodgers' name omitted myself. I was also a bit surprised to see Clement's name on there too. It's hard because nothing's decided yet. We're at that stage of the season where previous seasons we've actually had loads decided, so you could almost make those awards with ease of knowledge of what's happened. Personally, I think McInnes and Docherty and McGlynn are well worthy of being in that list as well, so it's sometimes hard to whittle the shortlist down. I think if Rodgers can go on and win these two reigning trophies, then he probably should be Manager of the Year. There's no doubting that, because you've got to remember where Rodgers was in the winter as well. He was in a difficult spot. He was facing mutiny from a lot of his supporters. There were questions coming at him all over the place from the media, from his fan base, about whether he was the same manager as before. And I think he's done really well to rise out of that situation. And he now holds the whip hand, and I think you're seeing that in the confidence that he's got now. And he'll be delighted that his team has responded. Celtic were in a difficult place a couple of months ago, and he's shown good management skills to do that while facing a challenge from the newcomer in Clement, who has done well himself. Let's be honest, he's done really well to get Rangers from where they were too. But a lot of people had Rodgers written off, and I think it's a sign of a good manager and somebody who can deal with pressure and criticism to respond positively and get the players and the team to the position where they are now.
Again, I don't know when they voted on this, but if you go back to the game that Rangers had at Ross County, if Rangers go and win that, okay, and Rangers are sitting level and whatever, and Clement's already got a trophy in his bag, then you can understand that. Now, as much as Brendan Rodgers can go on and do the double, and at the moment it looks favourite for the league, Philip Clement could go on and do the treble. So, there's not a lot in it. And if Rangers hadn't blown it up at Ross County and not taking it away from Ross County, then, we're going into this game and pressure would be on Brendan. So, as well as he steadied the ship, it can go either way. So I can see the depend when you vote. There's no doubt about that when it comes to voting. If it's right at the back end of the season, you'll see different people winning it.
Right, before we finish up, let's get some predictions from the guys. We'll start with you, Stuart. How's it going to go?
Yeah, I think Celtic will dominate the game. I think Butland will be brilliant, and Tavernier will score an 80 minutes free kick in the top bin, and it'll be 1-0 Rangers. Obviously, okay. Do I believe that? Maybe not, but do I hope it? Obviously.
Well, you were always going to say that, straight from the heart, Stuart. Mark, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking a Celtic victory by a couple of goals, just because I think they're in a better place at the moment than Rangers. I find it hard to see Rangers taking anything positive from Celtic Park on Saturday.
Brendan Rodgers has only lost twice as Celtic manager to domestic sides, Aberdeen and Hearts, 2018 and in December there. He's got a very strong record there. Aiden, how's it going to go?
I think a Celtic victory. I don't see it being a massively open game unless Rangers really come out in the first half, which I think they're going to have to do, because I don't think they can be coming away with a draw or for a defeat. I would say Celtic to score a couple of goals at least. Going to go 2-0 Celtic.
Stuart McCall thinks Rangers are going to win. Aidan McGeady thinks Celtic are going to win. I don't think there'll be too many surprises to anyone there. Listen, guys, thank you very much for joining us. Stuart McCall and Aidan McGeady. Mark Atkinson from the Scotsman. Great to have your thoughts on the match there. We better wrap things up now, though. Remember, you can hear full commentary of Celtic against Rangers on Sports Sound on BBC Radio Scotland Extra from 11:30 on Saturday. We'll have live coverage on the BBC Sports Scotland website and mobile app, and Sports Scene will have the highlights on the BBC Scotland channel. That's at 7:15. So you're fully covered. All the highlights of the other matches, of course, as well. There will be post-match Scottish football podcasts across the weekend, and we'll be back first thing on Monday morning with analysis of and reaction to whatever transpires on Saturday afternoon and across the weekend. Get the seatbelts fastened. Bye for now.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.